In these times of uncertainty, it's all the more important that we keep collaborating, informing, and inspiring each other, so that we can be smarter and better tomorrow. Welcome to the Pakhuis de Zwijger livecast.
Good afternoon and welcome to the livecast Inclusive Cities and Societies Through Design. My name is Jurgen Chonnefong and I will be your moderator this afternoon. This program today is developed in collaboration with the Creative Industries Fund, the cultural fund for design, architecture and digital culture in the Netherlands. Well, between 2017 and 2020, the fund organized 2 open calls and selected and supported in total 26 teams of creative designers and makers. They worked together on researching inclusive cities and societies through design, each in their very own way, and they did that in 4 different countries. They did that in Turkey, Russia, in Egypt, and in Morocco. For this livecast, we invited several team members to take us on their journey, to gain a deeper insight into their projects and to inspire us and to tell us about the significance of intercultural collaboration. Unfortunately, we couldn't invite all 26 makers and creatives in order to tell you about the projects, but there was a publication made recently where everything is described. You can go to the program page and you can either download it or order the hard copy there. I read it, it's very inspiring, it's amazing what was brought about. So I can recommend it warmly to you all. If you would like to join our conversation, that is possible as well. At least if you go to the program page of this livecast, you can log in through Zoom, and in the Zoom you can have the Q&A function where you can pose questions to anyone in the panel here. Make sure you mention who your question is directed to, and I will make sure that the right question is aimed at the right person. Well, without any further ado, we've got a full table here with a lot of guests, and this is only the first round. I would like to introduce you all to our first guest. Of course, Siep Groeneveld is joining me here. A very warm welcome to you. You're the Executive Director of the Creative Industry Fund. Very warm welcome.
Thank you.
And our next guest is Tuğçe Akbulut. You're here. Welcome to you as well. You're a cross-disciplinary designer and a project partner in the project Tradition as a Making Tool. We'll dive a little bit more into that and to hear what that entails. But a warm welcome to you as well. And our final guest is Daria Naugolnova, and you're an architect, you're a project partner in Identity in Typical, and that took place in Russia, if I'm not mistaken.
That's true.
Right. We'll hear a little bit more about the projects in a minute, but Siep, if I could start with you, can you tell us a little bit about how this program got started?
Yes, of course. First of all, also welcome to all the team members in all the countries that hopefully are watching this livecast, because it's for us it's a very pity that we couldn't be here together, and everybody hoped that, of course. As a Creative Industries Fund, we support around 600 projects per year, and this is via different grant schemes, but we also have a program, an internationalization program, which is financed by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Ministry of Culture. And they gave us a specific objective to try and to arrange new collaborations between the Netherlands in the creative industries and the aforementioned countries. This started in 2017, and we designed a program where we could build on equal understanding, on trust and reciprocity, and in the field of spatial planning, in the field of more inclusive cities. And that's the way how we started to organize the open calls, and how we in total got around 100 applications out of the 4 countries. And we really, initiated a lot of spirit in collaboration between the countries and the design practice here in the Netherlands, which was very inspiring.
Right. And why is this program new, or why is this initiative quite new for the fund?
Well, it's focused on 4 specific countries, and we set out the open calls and directly asking the various teams to start collaborating. So it's in that way you are really building a network, and you are building a network of understanding, but also for exchanging knowledge, which is very important.
And one of the themes that we're aspiring for the fund as well, and that came through in quite a lot of projects, is the rapid urbanization that's taking place all over the world. Yes. Why is that such an important theme?
Because this is happening all over the world, and at the same time you need new perspectives on the impact that this rapid urbanization can have for building more inclusive cities through design, and that's what this program is all about. And I think that interdisciplinary practice of design and architecture in the Netherlands can contribute with equal collaboration structures with partners from these countries, and that's exactly what happened in the 26 project.
Right. And my final question is, this is not only the project now to bring people together, but it's also about developing an international network of designers and creatives. Why is that important?
Well, I think that today it's even more important than it was yesterday, in the sense that we need to build structures where we can keep on collaborating together, learn from each other, learn about each other's perspective, about different cultures, how you can understand what are the deeper layers of why things are as they turn out to be.
Very good. Well, let's focus on the project now. Tuğçe, can I start with your project? You initiated something in Istanbul, and you brought a video as well, right?
Yeah, we can start with that.
Let's watch a clip from that video.
Yeah.
Wow, the pop-up park in Istanbul. It's an open space for everybody, and it opened 2 weeks ago, if I'm correct, right?
Yes.
Were you there?
Finished.
Could you be there?
Yeah, I was there. I just slightly finished and then flight here.
Oh, very good. Tell us a little bit about the project. What is the project really about?
Yeah, you saw what we did and how we did and why we did, actually. We focus with my project partner, Jurgen Tenuva. He is a founder of Spacecrafters and Dutch architect. We try to focus traditions and rituals, existing systems, to help audience users adapt these type of new innovations, approaches actually on the public spaces. So this is a tea park, rollable tea park, and every element has on their different tea plans, and they have explanations, and they can create new configurations with the elements, and all type of users of that location can create their own configuration to spend some time on that public space, because that location was formerly a park, but it became that concrete square for some municipal events, let's say, and we decided to bring that green back to the city center. And that Beşiktaş Square is one of the most vibrant and crowded square in Istanbul, actually. And we are talking about a city where 16 million people lives, and thousands of millions of people are just passing by that square. So we started at the phase 1, these rollable gardens, to understand how it works, actually, if the inhabitants of Istanbul use them, like them, and how they use it, and do they wanna continue using it, and etc. So we gathered all that learnings at phase 1 to create something way bigger and
more intense.
In that phase one, were the citizens also involved? Because you were researching rituals, so tea drinking is one of the rituals. Yeah. But how did you involve the citizens that would make use of the squares as well?
At the phase one, of course, the local connections are the most important thing. I working in Istanbul for quite some time, and I have a great network, and chairman and the municipality and the youth center and also some shop owners, they led us to be part of them and their story. So we gathered 35 people from that location and organized our dinner event, because at the phase one, we picked that gathering around dinner table tradition. That's why we work with them. And at the square, also, we collaborated with municipalities and users of that location as well.
Mm-hmm. Right. And now it's realized, it's been launched for 2 weeks. It's been on in Istanbul. What are the reactions of the people?
Actually amazing, because we thought that we designed multifunctional public space, but we didn't think that it will be very, very multifunctional. So we gathered interesting stories, and we also did the impact measurement of this project. So we created some survey to monitor, to understand the feeling of users of location. And it's the interesting, we are still working on that analysis, actually, we are still analyzing it, but the one number, 98% of people, they changed their opinion from negative to positive because of this design. And we surveyed with hundreds of people, and it was an amazing, remarkable
And why
number.
is that? Why did they have a negative connotation at first?
Yeah, actually, it is in the middle of the city, but also they don't feel safe because of pandemic, because of the. It's not that much a safe city, Istanbul, especially at night, especially for women, for instance. So we have a lot of interesting stories that we heard from women, that they feel comfortable to sitting, using public space in Istanbul at the middle of the night, which is quite important for us. So also because of diversity of that users of that location. So we bridged between these users like shop owners, bus drivers, and also skaters, for instance, because people were scared of that skaters, but we created new elements for them. So we invited them to our park to create new bridges between people, so it become more vibrant and inclusive environment.
And is what you describe like the core of the project, to make cities more inclusive, to connect all different kinds of people and users on the same place? Is that it?
It is, by using existing traditions and rituals. That is the most important thing, because when you do something new and put in front of people, people can get scared of it because it's just new. So we decided using this existing as a facilitator to help them to adapt, actually.
Right. And what, after this experience, what is the role of designers nowadays in society? What role should it have, or should they have?
Yeah, actually, I'm sort of an advocate of this social and economical value of creativity and design, actually. So we are the creative innovators as designers. So we have that skill to dream about. We have that fire as a curiosity. So we should use to solve problems, actually, not only creating pretty stuff. So that's why I find this very interesting, with the support of my Dutch partner also. We literally united our forces to do something interesting in Istanbul. So I would like to invite all designers, if they feel that responsibility a little bit, and also the fire in their heart, that they can literally combine these two things, like solving problems with creating amazing things at the same time.
And that goes beyond only using aesthetics.
Exactly. I mean, there is this concept that organization, B Corp, for instance, like, we see that is possible, like there's a huge ecosystem around impact enterprises. So we see that it's possible creating positive impact, but also doing good stuff, but also earning money at the same time. So this is not a rocket science, but we can do this.
Yeah.
But it's a new topic for us. So.
Yeah, great. Thank you for now. Like I said, the projects were taking place in 4 different countries, cities in Turkey, Egypt, Morocco, where it can be very hot in summer, but also an example of Russia's very cold winter far north. Let's watch a short clip about the Murmansk prospect of Friday Milk, a completely different place. Let's have a look.
This project is definitely for the people who are living in Murmansk, and not only. It's for the people who are living here, it's for the artists who would like to work with the northern meanings, with the northern images and sounds and different forms of how to make the north visible and hearable in a way.
В первую очередь это то, что проходит через призму моей эстетики. То, что я нахожу интересным или, наоборот, неинтересным, даже не то, что неинтересным, а настолько отвратительным, что я тоже хочу, чтобы это услышали и это попытались осмыслить. Безусловно, это и, наверное, антропологический проект, потому что мы говорим о том, что звуки постоянно меняются. Ты получаешь возможность запечатлеть себе текущую картину, текущий звуковой слепок, звуковую фотографию, если так можно выразиться, этого места, и вернуться, допустим, через 3 года и посмотреть опять на это.
So yeah, this week I'm hosting a Speculative Documentation Lab together with 6 participants from various disciplines, design, working with film, working with youths, mostly based in the university or students of the university. I think the most important thing for me was the local knowledge production, so to not reflect, or maybe to reflect on knowledge that exists about the city and about the region, but also really creating your own stories from the lived experience of the participants. So it's really about showing us or them taking us to their circle of friends, to their places that are important to them in the city, talking to the people that they think are interesting to speak with, and kind of creating this alternative knowledge economy of the city, if you will.
See, this is a completely different project where we saw in Isabel. It's about, outdoors, focusing on rituals. This is more focused on digital culture. Can you tell us a little bit more about all those differences within the program?
Well, we didn't actually make a difference between the different fields of the creative industries. It's more about this interdisciplinary collaboration. And of course, each of the countries, each of the cities, each of the societies request other constellations of collaboration between the fields of practice in design, architecture, and digital culture. And this is something that emerges almost naturally in the different applications that we received with the open calls. So that's.
But how can you weigh the importance of the applications, because you're comparing 2 different entities to each other, and still one can be allowed to be realized and one cannot?
Well, that's something that happens in every call that we organize, of course, and the criteria is focusing on the social relevance, the impact that projects can have, and also the level and quality of collaboration between the project partners and the way that they express how they mutually understand each other's and their different fields of expertise. And of course, during the course of the project, we hope that the collaboration only reinforces and becomes better and better.
And this is Am I correct in saying that this is the first time that the major scale impact measurement is being used within those projects?
For us as a fund, it was the first time that we developed an impact framework before we actually started with the program. So we tried to define what kinds of instruments we could use and also what kinds of instruments we could adapt during this period of 4 years to create better impact and larger impact. And of course, you have the direct influence in the sense that you support projects, and indirectly in the long term, much more on what is happening in society, in things like you saw in this specific 2 projects. And the project in Istanbul is even more important in this COVID time. So also this project had to adapt to the reality of the current days, and design and strong international collaborations can truly help to strengthen each other. So I think that's really important.
Right. Thank you. Daria, your project takes place in Russia?
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the project?
Yes. Our project called Identity in Typical, we're trying to preserve and develop the system of palaces of culture. I would shortly tell what the Palace of Culture is. It's a public building with a variety socio-cultural functions for kids and adults. And this system exists already for 130 years, actually. And the purpose of this system was to provide the entire population of the country with creative leisure. And to make the creative leisure and to make a third place of the society affordable for the whole population. In early 90s, there was about 70,000 of palaces of culture in Russia.
70,000?
70,000, yes. And now it's only 40,000 left. Actually, every year about 1,500 palaces of culture is disappearing. And actually, the whole system is disappearing. And shortly, probably in 20, 30 years, we will not have the massive entire leisure in our country anymore. Because government is not really busy with the development of alternative, of the new system of third places in Russia. And me and my colleague, Alexei Boyev, we have started our project in our own city. Voronezh called it, it's a big city. And we came there and we offered to renovate 3 old palaces of culture in our own city. And one project was accepted, and actually we implemented it. But we received money from the city, actually. And but during the process, we have realized that one project or just singular projects, they not really bring an impact to the whole system. And we decided to split our project or to extend our project into the 3 parts. And there are 3 parts now. We make single projects for renovation of the palaces of culture. We develop platform. We develop a website to create sustainable system of palaces of culture inside one region. And we are trying to prove to the government, to officials, that the necessity of the existence of the third place in our society, because in our opinion, the existence of inclusive cities, inclusive society is impossible without an affordable creative leisure, without an affordable third place for the whole population. And actually, our goal is to receive the support from the government. And what is really unique about typical projects, it's really power of the typical projects, is by implementing one project, it's really easy to prove to the government the effect of this. So we really can implement the one project, and further we're just going and saying, look, this is how it could be, this is how it could work. And this is how we really can make a change.
And the support of government, and that they realize that that is important to support this project, is important for the realization and makes it more sustainable as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
Is that something that you figured out when you read the project and when you gave them the money in order to realize it, that it had a bigger effect countrywide?
Absolutely, that's what you hope that will happen. And of course, you don't know it beforehand. But that's the reason why we also let the project evolve in different phases, so that you can adapt the project and the project plan during the course of the project and help them with extra knowledge, extra other kinds of means. And a project like this is very important to build more resilient societies, especially in this time of crisis with the pandemic. It's very important that people have places to go to within their own living space. And that's what a project like this can contribute to.
What did you learn or did you take away from the international collaboration? Was that something that was important for you or not?
Yeah, a lot of things actually, and the most important it's because me personally I live here for 12 years and I learned how it works here because I work as an architect here for many years, and I learned that it's totally different in Russia, and it was like really complicated in the beginning, but because here you can really come with your idea and you will receive support. There is dialogue. There is much less dialogue in Russia. You really have to prove if you would like to implement something, you really have to prove immediately that it will work. Only like this, and we realize it quite quickly, likely, and now we really have a tool how to communicate with officials, how to communicate with government, just to show them the effect of the projects.
Right.
And I think it also helped that we could mediate in making a combination via the ambassador in Moscow towards your Russian project partners. That truly helps if you make an international project, that you can create leverage between the Russian partners and the Dutch partners via the consulates and the embassies. That's
why was that important for the project to have the Dutch ambassador involved?
Well, it works really well in Russia still when you're coming and you're saying I'm a foreigner architect, I'm from Holland, and it opens a lot of doors. Yeah. So it's really a huge support for us that we are collaborating with Stimuleringsfonds. Yeah. And we're seeing that it's like a really huge effort for our project.
Yeah. For you both, what's the most important lesson that you took away from this project? Tucci, can I start with you?
Bias, skill, innovation, I can say. Because working with an international Dutch architect gave me a very fresh perspective to look back to my own culture. So I thought a lot of things can't be possible. But with his lead and his offerings and also his open mind, we try to find a way to make it happen, actually. And also, like she said, like saying that we came from Netherlands with a Dutch partner, and it opens a lot of doors in Turkey as well, especially in formal systems, in the office of municipalities, let's say. So, it was very important combining that local connections with the open mind of Dutch architect, I can say.
Right. There's also this notion that's really difficult in order to have an equal collaboration when somebody is supported from Holland with a Dutch fund and the person with the money is the person who decides. How did you experience that?
Yeah, it didn't go that way. He didn't decide it. We always, because I'm also used to facilitate these kind of collaborative projects, so we designed a system to work on it. And we had that systemic meetings, and we had that voting systems also online, and we discussed a lot of things. And also he respected me because I am the local partner, and the things quite different than Netherlands, and especially if you want to do something on public space. Yeah. And a lot of powerful organization has saying on that location. So he respected and he trusted me about that. And for further, I also respected and trusted him about his design taste and also his suggestions. So yeah, it went quite well, I must say.
Good to hear that. Daria, what was for you the most important lesson that you took away from this project?
The most important lesson that quite usual things they can be really special, and that Netherlands can also learn from our system a lot, and also from our architecture. And Russians, they don't see really value in the system of palaces of culture right now. But at the same time, when we're telling here about that, people are really amazed and saying, wow, this is something. It was really a long-term experiment which really went well, actually. And the high level of education of classical culture, of science of Russia, it's just because of the existence of palaces of culture in the past. And I think if we will explain it rightly here, it also can work really well for Dutch system of creative leisure.
Right. Yeah, and that exchange really happens. That's not only about bringing things from Holland to Russia, but also taking knowledge away.
Taking knowledge from our experience, from our history.
Yeah, perfect.
Yes.
Thank you. Siep, is there going to be a follow-up? Because these projects are very successful. Is there going to be a follow-up to this project?
Yes and no. In the sense that there will be a prolonged international cultural policy. And starting in 21, we will develop a new program focusing a little bit more on the sustainable development goals. And somebody from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs will tell a little bit more about that later on. And of course, we will learn from the experiences that we have built in the last few years. About
because I was really I asked you too about what you learned, but I was very curious what the fund learned from this, program as well.
Well, everything starts with building trust, building mutual understanding between a country and the Netherlands, explaining to everyone what the meaning of the program is, and trying to include the people in the way you develop and organize the program. And for us, it's very interesting to see that so many Dutch partners, which didn't have an initial international portfolio, now are operating internationally and are creating new coalition structures with partners in these 4 countries. There's, of course, a massive achievement of this program, but also for strengthening the ties between the Netherlands and these 4 countries. They have all their own realm, their own reality. All the countries are completely different, and they need different kinds of organization. And that's what we try to achieve. And I'm very happy with the result as is in this publication and around this table. And,
absolutely. But still, there's a reality of the pandemic as well. So how can we involve that reality in the next program as well? Because collaborating together will not happen in the traditional sense that we were used to, or is it?
Well, I think that the last few months really proved that it is possible to continue the collaboration, although you are not physically present at the moment anymore in the specific city or area or within the project. And that's something that we need to learn about how we can strengthen other ways of communicating in international collaboration, which is much more based on peer structure. And I think and I hope that we will see much more of that in the coming years.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your experiences. And in the next discussion panel, we will talk a little bit more about how to collaborate in times of the pandemic. But first, we'll do something else. We're going to listen to the Amsterdam and the Lucian Orchestra now. They have quite a short presentation about their activities, and then we'll listen to a song that they will play as well. They're working on several kinds of cultural projects and organizing a platform as well. So your attention for the Amsterdam and the Lucian Orchestra.
The Amsterdam and the Lucian Orchestra was founded in 2011 by a group of Amsterdam creatives, and together we work on several projects. We are an orchestra in its core, and we play classical Andalusian music blended with contemporary sounds. We like to see ourselves more as a platform than an orchestra, so we also do other projects beside our musical core. And now we decided to research Tangier. A lot of people from the orchestra are actually from Tangier, musicians, people from the team. And in the last 10 to 15 years, we saw a lot of changes in the urban landscape of the city. It expanded rapidly, and now we wanted to do a research about how these changes in the city actually affect the daily life of people in Tangier. So we started with 4 photographers, Hisham Gardaf, Karima Marwan, Guus Dubbelman, and me, a writer, Rodney Bolt, together also with local organizations, partners, such as Mahal Art Space, Atelier Kisaria, Think Tangier, and l'École Nationale d'Architecture in Tétouan. And we tried to put all these perspectives on the city together in one map. We used mapping as a tool, as a basis for this project. So all these different people, the musicians, local people we work with, people from the team, architects, urban planners, we all put this information in this map, which is still in flux. And from this map, we are building different outcomes. So until now, we already did an exhibition in Amsterdam. We made a hard copy photo publication, a photo book, where all these, actually this whole research is captured. We also did outside exhibitions in Amsterdam at the Mercatorplein and Plein 4045. And when these outside exhibitions took place, we actually did education programs with young people from Amsterdam to see the differences and similarities between Amsterdam and Tangier. And now we hope to also go to Tangier soon, when it's possible, to bring this project back to Morocco, where it originally started. And we hope to gather new perspectives from the local people, the public in Tangier, and the students from the architecture school.
That's also a bit weird to having an empty studio here, or an almost empty studio here, and not have the thunderous applause, because thank you so much to the Amsterdam and the Lucian Orchestra. We'll have a second panel here, and we'll focus now on building partnerships and creating impacts. And I'm joined by 4 new guests, 3 here at the table, 1 at the Zoom. And I'd like to introduce my first guest to you. My first guest is Yassine Salihin. A very warm welcome to you. You're an industrial designer and also in the advisory committee for the open calls. So you saw all the applications, and you had your opinion about them. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Daria Alfman is here as well. You're a senior consultant, and you are joined by your creative partner, and that's Abdallah Daif. Abdallah, are you here through Zoom? Can you hear us? You are here. I don't know whether you can hear us very well. We'll try to make a connection with you in the meantime, but I'll introduce our 4th guest here at the table. That's Thijs Verhaar. You're a designer, and you're a partner in the inclusive regenerative fashion in Turkey.
Yes.
A very warm welcome to you. Yassine, if I can start with you. You're a designer, you're a teacher, and you were, like I said, part of the advisory committee. And one of the criteria or evaluation criteria was the level or the degree of fully fledged collaboration within the project. What was remarkable for you in the applications that you selected on this subject?
Well, what we tried to look at is if the collaborations were full collaborations, meaning that it was not only, like you said before, earlier, that somebody came with a bag of money and they were the ones that dictated what happened, but that there was an exchange of ideas, knowledge, and that both partners enhanced each other so that they were complementary. So they didn't have to have same levels of knowledge or do the same things, but they should enhance each other and be complementary. And that's something that we looked at a lot to see if there was equality or equity in that state.
How can you decide that? Because if somebody writes an application on paper, you do not know what the chemistry between the partners is.
Yeah, no, that's very true. We try to use the criteria as our guide, and that's also, like Siep said, why the project is cut up into phases, and also we try to get input from the partners. The applicants should also give us input from the partners, what they think they can bring to the table, how they got in contact with each other, etc., etc.
Right, and another main focus, of course, was international collaboration. What's the importance of collaborating internationally? Because it, can give room for a lot of discussions as well, or miscommunication. Why is it important to have that international collaboration?
Yeah, that's really true. But what also happens is that you get these different perspectives on topics that usually are not limited to the place where the project takes place. So there is a locality to the projects, but what these projects usually deal with is something that we all deal with in different stages, in different phases, and then it helps to have different perspectives on that topic so that we collaboratively can see if we can find solutions or possibilities that we could not find before if we didn't include these different perspectives.
And my final question for now is, how important was it to have knowledge of the country that you would like to work in? Before, Daria, I will come to you in a moment, but you lived in Egypt for about 6 years, I believe. Was that important in Daria's case, or is that not important at all?
Well, I think it is important that you have a certain relationship with the country that you were going to work in. And I think what you see in all the projects that got grants, that they had a prior relationship with those countries, because that also helps you to not be fully dependent on the local partners, so that the local partners are not just your guides in difficult situations, but they can also contribute with their knowledge and their expertise and that you already have some knowledge and expertise about the country that you are working in.
Right. Yeah. Daria, I just mentioned you worked in Egypt for 6 years already.
Yes.
How did you build a network there?
Well, I was lucky to the point that my first consultancy contract was with a larger cultural NGO. And after that, I did a lot of capacity building and leadership development programs for civil society initiators, leaders, people from cultural organizations. And when you go through an experience like that, where you focus on, what is your role in this world, your vision on society, and how you would like to realize stuff in that, that's a pretty solid foundation to evaluate who might be potential partners afterwards. Even though that was not my initial intention, but that happens to be a very good foundation to scout partners from.
Right. And what is important to create a good relationship with your partners? How can you build trust, for example?
Well, I think mutual curiosity. And to be honest, I think most of the partnerships that are here until today within this collaboration were built on friendship. They are, I think, curiosity, really trying to understand where somebody else is coming from, having fun together. That's another really important part that is, for the sake of sustainability, very important. And looking at where the local gaps are, and together come up with solutions to address those.
And how can you prevent exoticism or enforcing stereotypes within the vision that you have on a certain country?
Well, I don't know. I think at the point of this project starting, I'd been living there already for so long that no longer was a thing. I can imagine. I have seen some quite a lot of foreigners entering, where I was like, okay, we're dealing with humans that have exactly the same questions as I do. So I don't think that was an issue. I did, however, find the fact that also with our Dutch partners in the Netherlands that did not have that much experience in Egypt, even though they were the ones who had all the technical and artistic knowledge, that me knowing both worlds sometimes helped to translate some cultural issues in our partnership that did have its ups and downs from time to time.
What were the downs that you encountered?
I think, commitments from partners that in the beginning I thought would be very solid, and then things changed, not necessarily because of their fault, but because reality changed. Our project was a bit tricky in the sense that we were also trying to engage local government on a topic of water, which is became very politicized. So there were some things that happened in that sphere that also affected our partners that we had to deal with.
Right. We'll talk about those difficulties later on a bit more, but tell us a little bit for the people who do not know, what did your project entail?
So what we looked at was, can we, together with citizens, architects, artists, entrepreneurs, look at what you can do to fight climate change that has to do with water. So the project is called Connecting Deltas. The Dutch Delta and the Egyptian Delta are both extremely vulnerable with sea level rise, but also soil salination is a big issue in the Egyptian Delta. Alexandria, which is the city that we worked from, has a very strong relationship with water. It's also for people a very emotional topic because it's kind of their heritage. So what we looked at is what can citizens do to combat climate action, either by becoming more resilient or in other part maybe come up with solutions that fight it. And we always wanted to highlight the human stories and the successful entrepreneurs or the people that launched an initiative that was really working, and always trying to bridge the scientific perspective, so the technical knowledge, but bringing artists and creative thinkers in the room to actually translate that knowledge to a language that normal people understand. Which is, I think, when you look at not only, in the Netherlands we have the same problem, is that our language is siloed. Architects speak one language, researchers speak another language, artists speak another language. When you suddenly put them in the room and let them speak about something, they find themselves speaking normal, understandable language.
But it's even more difficult because there's another language that's spoken in Holland and spoken in Egypt. You're bringing together those voices in that project together as well.
Yeah.
How did you deal with that?
Yeah, that was at times pretty tricky. I think we progressed in our understanding of the project more towards the Arabic content at the later stage of the project, because by doing, for instance, the co-creation sessions in English, you exclude some people. And the more we realize that awareness raising is essential, and actually making high quality content that is available for a larger audience made a shift to more and more in our to pure Egyptian dialect Arabic.
And did you understand that as well, or was it difficult?
Well, I sort of do, but not everybody.
Not everybody, of course, yeah. And you talked about reality hitting the project as well. I mean, the COVID pandemic is a reality we cannot deny.
No.
How did you deal with that?
So yeah, it's been pretty tough there, but also on the other hand, like we became, or especially our partner became quite creative. We shifted the project around to also producing podcasts that highlight stories from some of the people in the consortium and also outside. The first 6 episodes will be launched soon. It's all in Arabic, I'm sorry. And also a booklet that is produced by the artists that have been part of the process from the beginning till now, that make the content available for everybody. And and so we kind of shifted to the things that we can do. And on the ground, the artists, they've continued. I mean, they can work online too.
Right. I think Abdallah is here online as well. I'm going to try it again. Abdallah, can you hear me now? Well, it's great that you can hear us, but we cannot hear you yet. Yeah, there you are. We can.
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you so much for joining us from Egypt. We just talked with Daria a little bit about a collaboration between Holland and Egypt. How did you experience the collaboration? Was there an equal exchange of ideas?
In fact, it was a collaboration built in sharing ideas and building the project itself. It's a kind of cooperation built in a kind of mutual understanding and a mutual respect, and it built it on trust and also on the understanding of the importance of sharing the ownership of the project, not only with the partner in Netherlands, but with the multi-partners in Egypt as well. And you know, when we are talking about innovation in facing climate change, we need lots of ownership, because that creates responsibilities, and we share a responsibility, and we need to share this responsibility with a large number of people if we talk about really facing it.
Yeah, right. We mentioned here at the table already, in regard to the projects in Russia and in Turkey, there is an important exchange that you know people in Holland can learn from Turkey and Russia as well. What is it that you think that designers and creatives can learn in Holland here, can learn from Egypt?
Yeah, I think like it's for all of us. I don't have a recipe, in fact, but what I feel like you know, we are people who work about the change. We call ourselves change maker, and I think that change not happening in a daily once. I think that to be patient, because you know, if I ask you to change your job, to change your house, to change your haircut, your coffee habits, I think you need time to think about it. And I think like we have to be patient. To make change adapted by others also, and by several collaborators, and to be open for new experience, which is like reality in Egypt is not reality in the Netherlands, not reality in Russia, it's not in Turkey. It have its own character, and to work there, it's a good investment environment, but you have to be learning a lot.
Right. Am I correct in saying that you have to have a kind of a creative flexibility in order to work in Egypt as well?
And in Holland also.
Yeah, and in Holland also.
I was about to say.
Well, why was it in Holland also? Because sometimes you cannot see your own perspectives because you're in it. Why do you need that creative flexibility in Holland as well?
I think we need it here more than in Egypt, to be honest.
Why? Tell us.
Just the flexibility to deal with, you know, something that's happening in the moment. Things are over-regulated here. People are agenda obsessed. Like it's very hard to organize something spontaneous now. In Egypt, if you want to throw, I don't know, a co-creative brainstorm tomorrow, you'll have 15 people, highly qualified, incredibly fitted people within a day. That's something you can't do here.
Yeah. So yeah, because it doesn't fit the diary.
Absolutely,
you have to make an appointment.
Yeah.
Yassine, is this also the kind of collaboration you had in mind when you read about this project in Egypt?
Well, it's hard to say if this was the thing that I had in mind, but what I think what we did have in mind is these kinds of insights, right? So that there's not only something being brought to one of the countries, but also knowledge brought back, and that knowledge is not taken but given. And I think these kinds of things and these kinds of realizations also give us new perspectives on life here in the Netherlands and how we deal with being creative or solving things or creating new possibilities. And I think that is one of the bonuses of doing these kinds of projects. And
right.
yeah, the Egypt project that is shown here shows that, but also the project of Thijs or all the other projects, they all have these elements of knowledge that can be brought back that is also beneficial for here.
Right. Daria and Abdallah, I will return to you in a bit, but Thijs, you're here as well,
Yes.
doing a project in Turkey, because we all know that the fashion industry is one of the most non-sustainable industries in the world, and you have ambitions to make a positive change. How do you want to create an impact with your project?
What we try to do is of course reduce waste, but especially the industrial waste. And what you see behind us is industrial waste. And there, let's say our rich country point of view of waste is what we buy and what we keep in our closet. And we have this luxury, but we want to throw it away, but that's bad. But for us, a much bigger problem is the waste situation in producing countries like Turkey, where they make our clothes, and this is a great picture, I think, or this is all industrial waste while making apparel.
And what does your project entail? What does the project do with the waste?
But our first ambition was to create a new yarn. There is already some yarn being made out of some part of the waste, by far not all. So we wanted to see how we can use more of the waste to create new products. And during the process, or during working in Turkey, we had to adjust our goals a bit and went to using a more existing yarn to create better products for the European market. And our main goal is to work while we were in the project, it turned out that the economical necessity and also the impact necessity is too huge on a very large scale. Because we're talking about millions of kilos, so it's not about doing a nice project where we use 5 kilo or something, but it has to be a real impact.
Right. And how is that, how does inclusive cities and societies, how is that connected to your project?
Yeah, very, very direct, I would say, I work in Istanbul mainly for almost 30 years. And even now, I still have partners who burn their waste on the roof of their factory. Which is, of course, horrible, which is in the middle of the city, and Istanbul is not the most cleanest city anyhow. So it's very polluting, and the rest will be or burned outside or buried. But there is a huge waste problem in the middle of the city. I mean, Istanbul has this huge textile industry in the city.
Yeah.
Which is beautiful, but also very polluting.
Very polluting. I can imagine that when you started out the project, your expectations were differently because they were not infected by the COVID-19 pandemic yet. Yeah. How did you react to that pandemic? How did it affect your project?
Quite much. My partner Selman, who helped us a lot and who has a middle-sized factory in accessories, Bersa Tricot in Istanbul. He should have been here, but actually he is really suffering today an outbreak of COVID in his factory and with his workers. And I know he really cares about his workers and of course about his factory, but also the whole textile industry and the whole fashion industry is very badly hit by Corona. I think after Horeca and creative industry, we are number 3 of taking the hard hits. Yeah. So we had to change a lot about our project. I'm happy we were almost done in Turkey, I would say. So I couldn't travel anymore. That was bad. But the next step was to be, we developed products over there. And the next step was to start selling them or start marketing them and getting awareness of them here in West Europe.
And is it still going to happen, or is it?
Yes, I invested my last money in a nice lady who was going to sell them for us and was going to promote the project more professionally. Yeah. And so I hope that will turn
Tell us more. Where can we find it? You have to be commercial now. Where can we find it? I would like to buy something. Where can I find that?
But let's say we really. For the scale of the project, we need big brands. So we need PVH or like Tommy Hilfiger, G-Star, but also Zara. So if you're watching, guys, contact us. Contact this nice new lady. But it's important to have the collaboration of those biggest brands because they can make the change and they can have the real impact as well. Yeah, and let's say we did attract the attention of PVH or the mother of Tommy Hilfiger, and Calvin Klein. And so things are happening. We had the attention of G-Star, but our 2 contact persons are fired due to Corona.
Due to Corona as well. I think the flexibility that you mentioned that we need as creatives is very important to have that now as well. Daria, how can you see the future of your project? Because officially everything should end by the end of the year. Is that the end of the project as well? Because you're not there to finish things at all. But how do you see the future?
Well, so I think quite a lot of spin-offs have been created through the project, and I have good confidence that they will continue. I mean, I don't know how COVID will change, the feasibility or the viability of the project on the long term, but the awareness that there is something important that citizens can do, that's what we wish to continue. Like we will actually continue with this podcast series, also in Arabic to spread that, because there are a lot more stories that are there to be told. We also did projects in schools that, inshallah, will continue this year. And there are, so some of the smaller projects also connected to the international institutes that we collaborated with in Alexandria. They have made space for makers that have a specific focus on climate change projects. So that's also something that made me hopeful. In the long term, I think we'll continue with the spin-offs that we've set in motion. Right. And the other thing is that there is still maybe a collaboration between Alexandria University and the TU Delft, who is also a partner in our consortium. As soon as we can travel again, those connections are still there.
Yeah, great. Abdallah, same question for you, because this is developed in collaboration with Dutch partners. Is it feasible that the projects will continue without the support from Holland? I reckon it will, but how can it?
Okay, I think that it's not only the support from Holland, but also there is lots of support and lots of personal initiatives goes in. It's not only about the support, but we build a kind of infrastructure which is could allow people to work. We invested in our time and in this artistic work, which I think artists will continue work in the highlight of this, and other institutions will gonna work. And I think our subject is not a subject to be finished by finishing of some support. So I think it is gonna continue and with a partner or another.
Great. And is there anything, because we're at the table right now, is there anything you need from the Dutch fund? You can ask it now, because this is the opportunity.
Okay, so let's continue. Let's see also how they will work also in their own new program. I know that they have a strategic shift. I would like to hear. And also, I think that these 3 years, I think they found out like there is lots of fantastic projects around. I think that it needs another round of this kind of support, which is linking creative makers together and in several countries. I think it's really important.
Great. Well, I'm looking at Siep right now, who's the executive director, and he heard it, so I hope this is going to be it'll have a spin-off. Thank you for now, Abdallah. Thank you so much for joining us. For the people here and on the table as well, what do you think is the most valuable lesson you have to take away, or you can give to maybe future people, future creatives that maybe will take part in next rounds? What should they keep in mind?
I would say flexibility and open-mindedness, and not getting caught in cultural cliches.
Can you give an example of those cultural cliches?
Let's say a cultural cliche for me, for Turkish, at least the textile people I know, they're quite chaotic. I always ask them, if they say 15 minutes, is it Turkish 15 minutes or Dutch 15 minutes? But those are a bit of cliches. But I mean, these are the cute ones, I would say, and the bigger ones can be a bit annoying. But you should step out of that, and also their cliches about us being cold-hearted, rational, blah blah blah, and all the cliches which comes toward us.
Yeah,
and that's nice to. In the end, they're not there. We're humans, and we have to deal with characteristics of a person.
You're right. What should you avoid when you take part in this?
What should I avoid? Too high expectations.
Too high expectations?
No, maybe. In the start, but in the end, I still have high expectations, honestly, or they're even higher. So maybe that's not true. No, I don't know. I have no regrets yet. I was very happy and still are happy with the project.
Great, Daria. What's the case for you? What would you give? What kind of advice would you give?
I mean, everything he said, I think a trap that Dutch people sometimes make is that they think they know, and especially that they think they know better.
Yeah, right.
To be aware of that, because it's usually not true. So yeah, like a humility, and also an appetite for learning something new, and to be open to be enriched by what you find. I think that is the right attitude, and that's the thing, like fun and friendship. Especially, I found this in Egypt. It opens the door to everything. Maybe more than you would do here, because here you have to be more, professional to have a professional partnership. Yeah. And there you can have a very professional partnership, while there's also an element of openness and fun and relaxation. Because if you don't have that, it's very hard to build a partnership that lasts.
But how can you find the fun in times of crisis? Because you hit crisis as well. How can you still find the fun in the collaboration?
Well, I think Egyptians can teach you that very well.
Share the secret with us.
To open the conversation to include your entire life, about family, things that you love, be open and share who you are as a human. That's also the thing that creates. I mean, I'm sure you know that's what builds the relationship in. Most countries in the world.
So you bring your personal life into the professional relationship.
You have to.
But still, if it gets difficult, you don't want to share your personal life. You don't want to share anything because it's difficult. And how do you get out of it?
But if you have a strong foundation, you can handle quite a lot of difficulty in the relationship.
Yeah.
If I know when your children were born and I saw your first family photo, and stuff happens and we have a misunderstanding, or there's a frustration, or somebody made a mistake in I don't know, timing. The relationship can handle that.
Right.
If there's no foundation, people get frustrated and go like,
Yeah.
So it's build things in times that are good, so that you can handle the stuff when it gets hard.
Is there something that you agree with?
Yeah, I think it really also ties into this whole idea of inclusivity, right? So sometimes as designers or creative persons, especially here in the West, there's this whole professionalism idea, like Daria said, and then we become compartmentalized designers, right? So I'm a designer now, and there's almost, especially what we have, is this almost academic approach to design, where it's almost a science, and the things we do are objective and measurable. But to really be inclusive, you also have to include yourself, warts and all, right? So also, what are your incapabilities as a designer, your biases, all these things are becoming more and more important to do inclusive design and to also create these inclusive cities, inclusive projects. You cannot do them from this distant, almost academic approach of, okay, I'm objectively ascertaining what's happening, and then I'll analyze it, and it will go wrong. And that's I think something we can learn also as designers to apply to projects.
Right, and you've worked with bigger brands as well. Is there some advice you can give to Thijs in order to get that bigger brands, involved?
Well, Thijs is a master at his craft. I don't think that I am the person to give him advice at what he's doing. But what he's saying is very important, right? So in this kind of project, you need the impact of these large-scale brands, because if they only change 2%, 2% in a production of billions is already so much, right? So it's very important to do that. And it's interesting that what we sometimes forget is and it's something that Thijs mentioned before in an earlier conversation about, we forget about, for example, the technical prowess that's over there, that we might have great ideas over here, but there's no technical possibilities to create these ideas in scale. And opening a kind of a lab or an opening to these places could be very valuable for these brands also. So it is important to have these very local projects where you have co-creation with inhabitants, like in Daria's project, but also from an academic point of view, but also have these projects that do not shy away from big industry, right? So it is creative industry. So if you want to make impact in these kinds of topics, you need to be involved in that also.
Right. And if I'm correct, the scarf you're wearing is something that came forth from your project. Tell us a little bit about that.
We try to think out of the box as good designers about the materials we had in hand. And one of the big challenges with recycled material, what we're using, is that it has as somebody said, it has a granola feeling.
Granola feeling?
Yeah, very nice word. Thank you, guy from PVH. But if you wear something, it has to be soft, it has to be pleasant, it has to caress you. Most recycled materials feels like you're wearing a dead dog. There is our challenge as designer and as technicians, how to create something which still feels comforting, nice, and has a good hand feel.
Right, you can let go now. I will never let go of this anymore. On this note, I would like to thank you all. Unfortunately, the time is up, and I'd like to thank you for sharing your conversation. This is mine now. No, but thank you so much. I wish you the best of luck, and with the continuation as well of the projects, and hopefully that will have the sustainable impact that you strive for. Thank you also, Yassine, for sharing your insight in selecting the projects. And now, before we end here, I would like to introduce you to our next keynote speaker. That's Brigitte Tazelaar. Brigitte Tazelaar is the Deputy Director General for International Cooperation of the Netherlands at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And she's a career diplomat with over 25 years of experience in political affairs. And she's joining us here. A very warm welcome to you. As I understood correctly, you have some wise words to share with us.
Well, that remains to be seen, of course.
In that case, I would like to say the floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much. And thank you for your invitation. It's really great to be here in Amsterdam, and it's great to be away from The Hague, to be honest. And I'm also very impressed with what I've heard just now when I arrived, but especially with what I've read about the Creative Industries Fund. And I went through the publication this morning, Tales of the TREM, that the Creative Industries Fund made. And it gave me a good impression of the work that was done over the past 3 years. And I really must say, I was really impressed. I was really impressed. It was very inspirational. It's worthwhile reading. It's beautifully made. It made me laugh. For example, I read Thijs Verhaar, who said that he went to art school, but that he didn't learn anything there. It reminded me of my own son, that he went to art school, and after 3 months he said, well, Mom, they could just as well speak Chinese to me. So it resonated. But more importantly, it really gave a great sense of purpose. A sense of purpose about, for example, what inclusion means. And the program that is presented and discussed here today has been really innovative in its approach, because it uses design to address societal issues in the framework of our international agenda. And I believe this is an area with great potential. Design is historically firmly rooted in the Netherlands, and this gives a great opportunity to use this asset of work with other countries in reaching sustainable goals. I was looking at the wrong direction. What I particularly appreciate is the fact that this program very much builds on equality and mutual trust. In order, of course, in this case, with the aim to build objective to reach inclusive cities and societies. And I say equality and mutual trust, and in doing so, I also acknowledge what Zineb mentioned in the publication, because she says we must be honest and acknowledge privileges and distribution of resources. I think she's very right about saying that. Another aspect that struck me is the multifaceted cooperation teams that have been set up. Representatives from companies, local governments, semi-government, creatives, artists, etc., have been brought together and thought of solutions for certain societal problems, and they did this together. Even during these last difficult months, in which some of you had to continue or finalize your work while not being able to travel or meet. And still, you were able to do what you had to do together apart. And from my perspective as Deputy Director General for International Cooperation, I can clearly see that with these projects you have unleashed a creative potential that I hope to see much more of in the future. So this is why Minister Kaag has decided to continue to fund this program of the Creative Industries Fund also for the coming 4 years. Albeit with an even stronger development focus, as it will to a large extent also be executed in ODA countries that we also focus upon in our development cooperation. It's part of the new policy for international cultural cooperation that will be implemented in the period 2021-24, in which, amongst others, we see possibilities for the creative sector to have an innovative contribution to agenda setting and stimulating the SDGs. Design creates economic growth and adds a meaningful dimension to tackling global problems and challenges such as sustainability, climate change, and the quality of a living environment. Artists and designers offer new mindsets and solutions. I understand that the fund may need a bit of time to develop the program for the coming years, now that COVID-19 has made it impossible to travel and also may have had a great impact, especially on the creative partners in developing countries, in countries of destination. Not all developing countries, countries of destination. In the new program, the fund will focus on the SDGs 11, inclusive cities, sustainable cities and communities, and SDG 16 on justice, peace and strong institutions. Although I've seen that many of the projects, they actually deal with many more SDGs. For example, the project in Turkey, the biking project, it doesn't only improve the living conditions and the living environment of the town, but it also has an impact on air pollution and on people's health. Or, for example, the 1 meter Berber in Morocco, also a really lovely project that's about the preservation of intangible heritage, that is tapestry, old tapestry techniques, which gives a sense of identity and community, and contributes to poverty reduction, women empowerment, and sustainable livelihoods. Moreover, in addition to contributing to the SDGs, these type of programs also contribute to better relations with these countries because, as with the example of Morocco, we get intertwined with other cultures and communities if we are open and curious about each other. I really believe that this will lead to mutual understanding and cooperation. And as we have seen in the current program, our embassies and also ambassadors, I saw Renee Jones mentioned, she's a great example to me, can hopefully continue to build upon the networks that have been created and unlocked, and vice versa. I wish the fund and all the partners success in the upcoming period with developing new programs and look forward to see and discuss the results with you. Thank you very much. I hope this was useful.
Oh, that was very useful. Thank you so much as well. From the quiet a round of applause as well. We're very happy to hear that Minister Kaag has decided to continue the program for in the next 4 years. You mentioned, and I don't know whether everybody knows what the countries are, the ODA countries. What countries are those?
Well, those are the low-income and low-middle-income countries. But specifically, we work in a number of them. Which is mainly North Africa, Sahel, Horn of Africa, and Mashrek, Middle East. And then we've got a few countries outside that region, but those are the main regions that we focus our development cooperation upon.
All right. Yeah. And another thing is that the reality we have to deal with is the COVID-19 pandemic, which doesn't seem to disappear very quickly. What, in your perspective, how do we have to deal with that within international collaboration?
Yeah, I think it's a real challenge, but look at how you've organized yourself here. You're already doing a really great job. And of course, digital solutions can never replace face-to-face relationships. And I already feel so happy that I'm not behind a screen at home right now, which usually is the case nowadays. But it can also give a lot of opportunities. I remember, for example, when I was posted in the Palestinian territories in Ramallah, I went to Gaza quite a few times. And I also worked with the artists there, and they were not allowed to leave Gaza. Some of them never even had left Gaza. And they really were so eager to come to the Netherlands and see the musea and see the art, etc. And now I think we're getting more accustomed into, for example, organizing these digital tours. So it would be great for these kind of, these target groups to actually get a sense of culture elsewhere, in the Netherlands or elsewhere, through these digital means. So yeah, it has opportunities as well.
Right. Yeah. And in what way does the new International Cultural Policy Program provide room for these initiatives? Will those initiatives or will the space that's been given change because of the pandemic?
I think it will change, although nobody knows for how long this will take. But our embassies have been busy with writing their new cultural plans for the coming 4 years. And they are already, thinking about ways on how to use digitalization as a new way to increase projects or to increase ties between different partners on these subjects. So already it's being thought of, but it is developing while walking, right? It's building the ship while sailing, actually, yes.
Yeah, we cannot see into a glass orb to see what the future will hold. But thank you so much for sharing your insights. Thank you so much for being here. And I'm very happy that we're not behind screens, but face-to-face to each other. Thank you so much.
You're wearing a very nice scarf, by the way.
It's not concluded yet, but I'm trying to keep it in my possession. But that's a conversation for after the program, because unfortunately we've come to the end. Almost come to the end of the program. I hope that these stories inspired you to hear these stories, to hear about those new initiatives. If you would like to know more about the other initiatives, I already said this publication has been released now. You can go to the program page, and there you can either download it or order it hard copy. It's called Tales of the TREM, of course. On the website of Pakhuis de Zwijger, you can also find other interesting podcasts about one of the projects in Morocco, affordable housing in Casablanca. And opposite to the podcast that was only being released in Arabic, this podcast, unfortunately, is only being released in Dutch, but very interesting. And you may also find other livecasts on the website of Pakhuiswijker in regard to this topic. Well, we've come to the end, but we will not let you go before we listen for the second time to the Amsterdam and the Lucian Orchestra. They will play a song that has Moroccan, Egyptian, as well as Turkish influences. And on the background, you will see pictures of every project that has been realized. Thank you so much for your attention. And now, the Amsterdam and the Lucian Orchestra. So much, Amsterdam and the Lucian Orchestra, and thanks again to all our guests, and hope to see you next time. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.